Doing 2 NFL player props here on PrizePicks for Sunday, September 15th. You guys, before we get started, link in the description below. Hop into the premium Discord. $9.30 per month, 31 cents per day. So where I post all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks. Other cappers in there as well, posting all their plays. Overall, you guys, is a super positive community. Everyone in the Discord just trying to help each other cash. Again, link in the description below for that. $9.30 per month. Also, I also want to mention, I'm not a gambling expert and this is not financial advice. Simply just plays I'm personally looking at making. Hopefully give you guys some insight and analysis to make your own player prop decisions here. Again, no one's pressing submit on those parlays other than yourselves. But let's get right into it, you guys. I want to keep this video as brief as possible. Also, stay to the end of the video talking about Daily Grind Fantasy, you guys. Link and promo code in the description, TUFF, 25% off your first month, you guys. Research betting tool that I do use every single day with the link in the description, 25% off the first month. But let's get right into it, you guys. 2 player props that I'm targeting from this Sunday slate here. Let's get into it. First play is going to be Tony Pollard over 11 fantasy score. I think I would play this at 11.5 if it does end up bumping for you guys. 11 fantasy score here for Tony Pollard. We look at this matchup looking like it's going to get a little bit of rain here, which I think even helps Tony Pollard even more with checkdowns. But Jets are actually 3.5 point favorites here, 41 over under. I think this game could be close, honestly. I didn't think the Jets defense looked too good. We saw Jordan Mason just score 22.2 fantasy points against them. So we essentially get Tony Pollard's line, who has been, known to be a very capable fantasy score player, cut in half, right? Jordan Mason scored 22.2. We get Tony Pollard here at 11 flat. Again, I would play this up to 11.5 easily. But we look at Tony Pollard here. Going back to last season when he was with the Dallas Cowboys, really solid hit rate. The year before that, super solid hit rate. And the year before that, decent hit rate as well when he got his touches, right? He obviously has faced the Jets before. I think going back to last season with the Dallas Cowboys, he faced the Jets. He had 17.9 fantasy points in that game, 25 carries on 72 rushing yards. Also had 7 catches for 37 yards. Did not score a touchdown, saw 8 targets. And the Jets, they give up production to the running back position because their secondary and their pass defense is so elite. And for a young, unproven quarterback like Will Levis, I think he's going to have a ton of checkdowns here to Tony Pollard in this matchup. Like over 1.5 receptions for Tony Pollard right now is minus 400. If we kind of look back at last season when Tony Pollard caught the ball at least twice, he caught the ball at least twice in a ton of games, but the floor for his fantasy score line, he essentially never scored lower than 9 fantasy points when he's caught at least 2 balls. Last season, and go back the year before that when he catches at least 2 passes, you can see the fantasy score floor for Tony Pollard, right? Essentially when he catches 2 passes in a lot of games, or more than 9 different games in 2022 when he caught at least 2 passes, he soared over this 11 fantasy score line. Like I said, even going back to last season, the Jets gave up the 6th most fantasy points to the running back position. Ton of targets, right? Their top 8th most targets to the running back position. Yards per carry was not that great, but again, the volume and the touches will be there for Tony Pollard, specifically out the backfield in this game if they are trailing. But I do think Will Levis is going to go through his reads. He's going to see he doesn't have a ton of great wideouts, but Calvin Ridley's going to be guarded by Sauce Gardner. He's not going to be open. Next read is probably going to be Okonkwo or DeAndre Hopkins. They're going to be covered by DJ Reed and those linebackers, CJ Mosley. So it's going to be a lot of checkdowns to Tony Pollard. PPR scoring, I like him to catch at least 2 or 3 balls in this one. He should be able to run all over them as well. Like I said, Jordan Mason just went for 147 rushing yards on 28 carries. Again, I'm not expecting Tony Pollard to get 28 carries, but going back, even looking at running backs fantasy score game log last season versus the New York Jets, right? We see the hit rate as well. Look at all these different running backs that cleared this line last season versus the Jets. 12.5 for Devin Singletary, 65 rushing yards and a touchdown. So many different ways for Tony Pollard to clear this line. I like this over 11 fantasy score for Tony Pollard. And again, at the time of me recording this video, this line could move. I would play this at 11.5 and may debatably play it at 12. I will again post a pinned comment in the description if this line does bump, whether or not I'm still playing this line. But before I get into the second play, let's talk about Daily Grind Fantasy, you guys. It combines all the lines from all the major sports books and give us a percentage odds to hit over on PrizePicks. If you're on underdog, it's there. Sleeper, better picks, whatever platform you're on. For example, Daniel Jones right now, currently his 16 fantasy score has a 54.64 odds to hit according to Daily Grind Fantasy. Because, again, these sports books, Pinnacle, DraftKings, Caesars, they don't have traditional fantasy score lines on their books. So DraftKings, Daily Grind Fantasy takes, pass touchdowns, passing yards, rushing yards, and combines them into a fantasy score line of what it would be on those books. So essentially, on DraftKings, Daniel Jones' fantasy score line would be 17.4. It's at 16 at PrizePicks, giving us the discrepancy. Again, listing these whole discrepancies, all the line discrepancies here. Link in the description, and promo code TUFF gives you a 25% off your first month, you guys. Daily Grind Fantasy, I do use this tool daily. But again, Tony Pollard over 11 fantasy scores the first play. The second play, all right, I'm not considering off-the-field issues here for this player. I do not condone any off-the-field issues this player does have. This is strictly for football and player prop betting here. I like Deshaun Watson, okay? I like Deshaun Watson in this one. Please forgive me if, again, I'm just talking about strictly football. I like Deshaun Watson over 16.5 fantasy score. I think this line's too low given the matchup, and given I think everyone's out on Deshaun Watson. I think he kind of has a bounce back game in this one. Looking at this one, looking like there could potentially be some weather. 85 degrees is going to be super hot down there in Florida. I think a typical Florida weather for this time of year. Jags are going to be 3-point favorites, so Cleveland 3-point underdogs here, 41.5 over under. Deshaun Watson, right? If we look over on Outlier, again, link in description, right? We go his fantasy score PrizePicks. Last season, he was over this line in 4 of 6 games. If you take away these 2 games, I mean, he soared pretty over this line pretty easily. And even this season, earlier this year, just versus Dallas. Actually, let's see what he finished with versus Dallas. Deshaun Watson, let's do it standard. I think he finished, what did he finish with? 16.4 fantasy points against Dallas. 169 passing yards, a touchdown. All right, I don't know if this is actually right, to be honest. I think it might be DraftKings. Yeah, 12.7, sorry. 12.7 fantasy points, and did not play well at all, right? The Browns offense was a complete disaster, did not play well, but I think he bounces back here in this matchup versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Going back to last season, the Jacksonville Jaguars allowed the sixth most fantasy points to the quarterback position. We just saw Tua Tagovailoa go for 22 fantasy points versus the Jaguars in week 1. And it's a great spot. I think the Jaguars, their pass defense is not known to be good. We look at last season in quarterbacks that have faced the Jaguars with 15-plus rushing yards, which I think Deshaun Watson's rushing log is currently at 15.5, his goblin. You see the hit rate on this line, right? CJ Stroud, 30. Jake Browning at 25.7. Mahomes, 22. Richardson, 21.9. And Lamar Jackson, 19.5. So it's a strong hit rate for quarterbacks that are able to run the ball. And even looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars, yards per attempt to quarterbacks, 5th highest through week 1. Let's go back to last season as well, previous season. On this line here, Jacksonville Jaguars, yards per team advanced defense. Hold on, let me see real quick, you guys. Yards per attempt last season, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they ranked here 17th. And let's see, hold on. Rate Jacksonville Jaguars here, where are they? 16th. So they really, I think, fit. Their weaknesses go well to Deshaun Watson's pros, right? Him being able to scramble, move out of the pocket. I like the over on this one. I don't know why. More so a gut feeling here. The weather I know is going to be somewhat impacted here. I think over on RotoWire, say your typical afternoon in Florida thunderstorm, chances of coverage around 50%. Won't know if we get one over the stadium or not closer to kickoff. Regardless, I think that even increases his rushing upside, which obviously increases his fantasy upside here. Again, I like this spot for Deshaun Watson. Strong hit rate, right, going back to last season. We look at Deshaun Watson, like last season, right, DraftKings. He hit the over on this line in 3 of 6 games. Obviously did not play well. But I think he bounces back. Going back to 2022, obviously he didn't play a ton. 2021, he didn't play a ton. 2020, right, he's pretty much cleared this line in every single game he played. So the talent is there. Again, I don't condone any off-the-field issues that Deshaun Watson has, but I like the over on this line at 16.5. So again, let me know in the comments below how you feel about these 2 plays, you guys. NFL Sunday, September 15th. Please drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.